I made a video a few months ago talking about how I wanted to reread the Magic Tree House series because the more I think about it, the more I think about how historically traumatized these two kids would have been. I was like, I want to make a series where every morning I read one and then I recap it from an adult perspective. But then I looked up how much they cost and I was like, no. But then my mom texted me and she was like, what household do you think you grew up in? Of course, I still have all of your Magic Tree House books. Ta-da! These are called the Magic Tree House books. They were very important to me for a very long time. As I am currently at my parents' house, now is the perfect time to start this series. Firstly, there are a few that are like the nonfiction, like historical ones. The only one that has a cracked spine or looks like it has been read at all is the ancient Rome and Pompeii one, which for me makes sense. I'm not going to do the historical ones. I don't want to. Looks like we have 5 of the like Merlin mission ones. This is the only one that I remember. This is like the cover that I remember because I used to think it was just one Merlin thing, but apparently there's many. Of the original series, though, we have 28 of the books, so I figured I'm here for a bit. Why not do one every morning when I have to get up at 6:30 to let the dogs out? Speaking of the dogs. Hey, girl! It's really funny to me because I can tell which one of these were like my favorite because they look so much worse than the rest. These smell like the Scholastic Book Fair. So tune back in tomorrow morning. I will be recapping Dinosaurs Before Dark. Oh my god, it has chapters? It has chapters? I know, I'm learning so much. Are you excited for Dinosaurs Before Dark, Tano? I know, we're gonna learn so much together. Let's talk about Dinosaurs Before Dark. Welcome to the first episode of my Magic Treehouse series, where I am recapping all of the Magic Treehouse books every morning and just reliving them as an adult with a fully formed frontal lobe. So the cover trauma count is 1. They look pretty traumatized. So this book kicks off with Jack and Annie in Frog Creek, Pennsylvania. They are walking home. Annie is 7 years old. Jack is 8.5. This is very important. As an older sibling, I do feel like there's going to be a lot of younger sibling slander here. Mostly just because Annie, in my opinion, is acting a little bit manic pixie dream girl, but also could just be acting like a child. They're walking home from school. Annie is being imaginative and loud. Jack is just reflecting on his day, taking this time through the forest to just enjoy. When Annie stumbles upon a treehouse. This is where Annie's manipulation kind of begins because she's kind of gaslighting Jack throughout this entire book. She says, we should go up in this treehouse, and Jack goes, no, it's not ours. She does it anyway. Jack's like, please get down from there. I am in charge of you right now. I'm only 8.5. To which then Annie goes, well, what does this nerd really like? Books. Well, thank God this treehouse is filled with books. And that's how she entraps Jack in her scheme. There's a lot of books around there. They all have their little bookmarks in them. They pick up the one about dinosaurs. And Jack wistfully, because he's a wistful little scholar, he goes, I wish I could be there with the dinosaurs. Boom, they're with the dinosaurs. Now, I don't know if you remember the illustrations for these books, but I sure didn't. And the first time that I saw their little friendly dinosaur, the one that's on the cover that I don't even want to try to pronounce, he looks a little mischievous. He looks like he knows a secret, and I don't like that he looks like he knows a secret around minors. Personally, Jack's like, well, we're the first people in existence to ever see these dinosaurs. Therefore, and henceforth, I must write down in my journal. Journal's like one of those little, like those little notebooks, the little like flip notebooks that we all used to have. Iconic. Immediately, Annie gets back on her manic pixie dream girl bullshit. She's like, he's so nice. He's my friend. Look at him. Let's name him Henry. And Jack is like, what is wrong with you, actually? This is a dinosaur. We are in the Cretaceous period, okay? Also, I looked it up because they're in the Cretaceous period, and the treehouse is in an oak tree. And I just want to put it out there that oak trees did not exist in the Cretaceous period. Jack's notes are pretty important. He writes that it has fuzzy skin and potentially could have a small brain. So after that, they decide to start wandering because why not? And also Annie has the zoomies. And to be fair, Annie continues to manipulate him where she's like, well, if we are the only people in existence to be here, don't you want to take your little notebook around and make more notes? And Jack's like, damn it, my little scholar heart, I must. They kind of just start making their way around, and this is where Jack finds the medallion. This is the only thing in this book that I remember. But the second that he sees that medallion, he's like, Annie, we're not the first people here. And you can just like see just like the sadness in his eyes, you know? They see the duck-billed dinosaurs. Annie decides to once again dive right into things without thinking a single goddamn thing through. And she ends up near a bunch of nests of baby dinosaurs. And Jack has to have this moment where he literally says, I'm gonna kill her. Valid. And then he's like, okay, crawl towards me and just like pretend you're eating grass. Because apparently in the time that this was written, that's what we told kids to do around large dogs if they felt endangered by dogs. I don't remember that. Tano, do you have anything that you want to add as the dog representative here? Okay, great. So from there, shit really hits the fan. First of all, they never actually once wonder, how are we getting home? What? That would be the first thing that I would be wondering, personally. The duck-billed dinosaur starts to run away, and they're like, why is it running away? Surprise, bitch, T-Rex. This is where you learn that Jack is a library kid, because he goes, I left the book behind. It's not mine. I have to return it. And we go, yes, King. Okay. Jack decides to be heroic for libraries everywhere, and he runs back over to grab the book because it's also with his backpack and, most importantly, his scientific notebook. Then he realizes, he's like, oh shit, the T-Rex is in between me and this magic treehouse that Annie is in. So then, because every bad decision has been made by her so far, Annie needs a heroic moment. So she goes down to the dinosaur that has apparently just been chilling there at the treehouse the entire time, and she says, hey, can you go pick up my brother? Thank you so much. And this is where you see like your first moment of joy from Jack, to see that he has that emotion, because he gets to fly over the little land of Dinosaur Land that he gets to see, and he escapes the T-Rex, and it's quite magical. The book ends with them, finding the book that takes them back to Frog Creek. They go home, everyone's happy, and they go, well, we can't tell anyone about this. We can't tell the top 3 groups of adults that we know. We cannot tell our dad, we cannot tell our mom, and we cannot tell our teacher. Good lesson to learn for kids, Don't tell adults shit. It reminded me a lot of, that iconic scene from The Mummy where Evie goes, well, nothing dangerous ever came from opening a book. Meanwhile, these kids were like just yeeted back into dinosaur land and like almost got killed by a T-Rex. But anyway, well, thank you for joining me on this magic morning as I recapped Magic Treehouse, the first book. Tomorrow, prep yourself for Nights at Dawn. I hope you enjoyed this. Tano didn't. She's asleep. But thank you for watching, and see you tomorrow morning. Let's talk about the Night at Dawn. Welcome back to my Magic Treehouse series, where every morning I read another Magic Treehouse book and then recap it from the perspective of an adult. It's not exactly stated what time period of castles and knights this is, but it does say peacocks for dinner and boys in skirts. So the book opens at 5:30 in the morning, and Jack can't sleep. And for some reason, he looks like everybody's favorite gay aunt in this illustration. He also looks hungover, if we're being realistic here. The time frame is that they got home from Dinosaurs, had dinner, went to bed, and it's already the next morning, and Annie's knocking at his door being a little demon again. This book, once again, makes me more Team Jack than Annie, because she was a brat right from the very beginning. She knows for a fact that if she wants something and she says she's going to do it, Jack can't say no, because he has to go with her. She's like, I want to go back to the treehouse where the magic person might be so we can scare them in their sleep. Girl, what? You're 7. Jack goes, I don't want to do that. I want to recap everything that just happened to us and maybe sit with it for a minute. And she goes, bitch, I'm going to the treehouse. And he, once again, goes, God, I really want to kill her. And you know what? Valid. They end up at the treehouse, and Annie picks up the castle book, the one that she was looking at last time. And even as Jack goes, don't you dare, she goes, I wish I could go see this knight in shining armor. This is the girl that when I was a camp counselor, we all fought over not wanting in our cabin. So then they are at castle, and they see a knight, and he rides off into the distance towards the castle. And Jack starts doing the smart thing, which is reading from the book to get a consensus of where the hell they are. Meanwhile, Annie's like, I just want to go frolic, and I want to go see the castle, and I want to see it all in person. They head over. Jack's like, hey, there might be crocodiles in this moat. Potentially. Jack keeps looking at the book, right? He's like, okay, so this is what they're saying this is what's happening. Like, he's trying to like get an idea of where they have just been absolutely thrown through history. Meanwhile, Annie's like, I'm going in. One of the other things that I find funny is that one of the fun facts of this book is that a knight's helmet could weigh 40 pounds. And Jack can't get over the fact that he weighed 40 pounds when he was 5 years old. So he keeps going, it's like wearing a 5-year-old on your head. Genius. So they head into the castle, and this is where shit gets a little crazy and potentially a little dark because a man sees them. A man specifically carrying pies, right? They're like looking into this room where people are like reveling, right? And like having a good dinner. And he says, "Who goes there?" basically. And these two dumb idiots say their names, not their full government names, but they say, "It's Jack and Annie." First of all, snitches end up in ditches, okay? Don't say a single goddamn thing when an adult asks your name. They end up in the armory. Jack, once again, with his hyperfixation on these 40-pound helmets, he's like, well, I must put one on. He does that. It causes a little bit of a stir. And then these guys find them, right? Because, like, they're literally trespassing. And they're like, we're going to throw them in the dungeon. The hangings will be in the morning unless the rats eat them first. We're going to hang this 7 and this 8.5-year-old because they were trespassing and they tried on a helmet. Wild. So then Annie once again has her like one heroic moment within the book that she like has to have because everything else is her fault. So she has to have like one redeeming quality, right? She like shines her flashlight and she's like, this is my magic wand. And all of these medieval idiots are like, oh my God, a sorcerer. Oh my gosh, we have to back up. Gentlemen, she's 7 years old. You could pick her up with one hand. There's an entire map of this castle in the book, and this is now where the escape happens, and we learn a new vocab word, which is precipice, because they go through this like secret tunnel. And they end up on the precipice looking out over the moat, which Jack falls into. And I don't want to cause any issues here, right? I don't want to stir anything up, but the picture looks like Annie pushed him. I'm just putting that out there. Granted, she couldn't like hold him up, you know, once again, she's 7. But like, Jack falls in. Annie decides the smartest thing to do is to jump in after him. Okay. They start kind of like swimming around. It's dark, right? They don't have their little flashlight anymore. And they end up like wet on a riverbank somewhere. And this is where like a magical thing happens, which a knight shows up, the knight from the book, the one that they saw like at the treehouse before they ended up in medieval times. And the knight basically doesn't say a damn thing, picks up these kids and takes them back to the treehouse. I know there's magic at foot, right? I know that this will eventually become like a big universe of magic and things. But like, one, don't get on a vehicle with a stranger. I know that vehicle is a horse, but kids, what stranger danger was massive in the 90s. What are we doing? They do end up back home, and their biggest like fear isn't the fact that they almost just died by hanging in medieval times. Their biggest fear is that their parents have woken up and have like gone downstairs and probably seen that they're not in bed. Also, the thing that like freaked them out the most wasn't the fact that they were potentially almost thrown in a dungeon, but the fact that everybody was eating with their hands. So that's great. The book ends with Jack realizing that he has taken one of the bookmarks from the books, and it also has an M on it. And he's like, could be the same person. We are 2 for 2 of the kids looking absolutely traumatized on the cover of the books. They're not looking like they're having the greatest time of their lives. And considering they were almost hanged, rough. I'm so excited so many people are as interested in the series as I am. I'm truly having the most hilarious time with it, honestly. I hope you had fun, and I'll see you tomorrow morning. Let's talk about Mummies in the Morning. Welcome back to my Magic Treehouse series, where I am recapping all of the Magic Treehouse books every morning from the lens of an adult. Mummies in the Morning was my favorite, specifically just because it took place in ancient Egypt. Having now revisited it, I am now relatively proficient. I understand hieroglyphs because I took real classes. And this book, I'm not even going to talk about the hieroglyphics in this book. I can't. This book, however, takes place the day after they went to medieval times. So they're really racking up the travel points. It's been 3 days and they've already gone to 3 places. As they're heading up the treehouse, Jack is like, I feel like we're being watched. And I go, well, yeah, that's what happens when you trespass on other people's land. So that's a lesson you could learn. Once they're up in the treehouse, they're kind of like, looking around in the books and whatever. And Annie, 100% manipulation tactics, 1,000, just goes, hey, ancient Egypt, you like mummies. She's like choosing adventures that like She doesn't really care like where they go. She just wants to go somewhere, and she knows that if she finds something that's like interesting to Jack, he'll do it. And Jack literally goes, "Dang it, I really like mummies." So they're like, I wish I could go to there. And suddenly a Sphinx cat appears. Sphinx cat is going to be their magical companion that gets them out of dying, because that seems to happen every book. But suddenly they're in ancient Egypt and they're watching kind of like a funerary procession below them in the treehouse. But apparently it was just a mirage. So maybe it wasn't an actual funerary procession. Who's to say? It looks like they're going into the Giza pyramids though, which is interesting because once they're in there, Annie's like, we should look around. And Jack is like, well, let me consult the book to see where the fuck we are, honestly. Someone in the comments said that Annie clearly has ADHD, and I agree. I agree. ADHD with malicious intent. So as they're kind of, like bebopping around in this pyramid, they suddenly see a figure walk by. And Annie immediately is like, oh my God, it's a mummy. It's a ghost. And Jack is like, that's stupid. Of course it's not a ghost. He goes, it must be a tomb robber. And then for some reason, while thinking there's a tomb robber in this pyramid, Jack's like, I must take notes on this. I must. While Jack's writing these notes, clearly Annie is having her first like fully formed thought where she's like, we should get out of here. But instead they run into a ghost. So that means Annie was correct. Crazy. The pharaoh is a woman, which is really exciting. So thank you for that. We love to see a woman in power. But she's not real. I just want to put that out there. She's not a real pharaoh. In history, they realize that they have to help her find her Book of the Dead for her to be able to pass on. And she's like, I've been waiting 1,000 years for this. So she's been waiting for 2 American kids for 1,000 years who she speaks English to help her pass on to the afterlife. I also just want to point out that the reason that she hasn't been able to find her Book of the Dead is because her brother wrote the writing too small and she doesn't have glasses, so she couldn't read the hieroglyphs. And he's like, Jack's weird that way too. You should just put on Jack's glasses. And the pharaoh goes, I'm literally made of air. So this is where things get a little not great in my opinion, because she has them start reading hieroglyphs, and there's 4 different ones, but they use the hieroglyphs as a way to like find real objects. That's okay. That's fine. So that's like not accurate, but like kind of fun, I guess, scavenger hunt in ancient Egypt. What a fun thing to add to your resume. Then they're like, okay, well, we have to now give her Book of the Dead so that she can like, go on into the afterlife. They decide to like hand it to her mummy because they can't find the ghost. Annie's like, oh my God, this is so exciting. We get to see a mummy. And then the second that she sees that shriveled dead body, she's like, I'm out, bitch. This is crazy. I don't want to be here anymore. And the illustration of Jack like lovingly giving the scroll to this like mummy, which for some reason her entire face is exposed. And you can just tell that Jack is like, I'm making history. I'm making a difference. But then of course, because Annie's like, I'm the hero of my own adventure, this bitch has like disappeared into this pyramid. Jack turns around, she's gone. He's like, what the hell? What proceeds is like 2 pages of them basically playing Marco Polo because Annie ran off down like a false corridor and then gets them trapped in the pyramid. Nobody admits anything they've done. We're now 3 for 3 with these kids almost dying in their historical little adventure. If it wasn't for the cat, their magical guide, who basically leads them out of the pyramid, because without the cat, they would have been truly screwed. They get home safely, everyone's alive, and they're like moving around the books, even though once again, they don't live here and this isn't their house. As they're moving the books around, they see another M on the floor in the treehouse and they're like, oh my gosh, this place does belong to this person. And it's like, you needed 3 hints? That's crazy. It does end with them getting peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, which I guess they deserve. Worked up an appetite. They've been playing little scavenger hunts in ancient Egypt. So it's not quite what I remembered it being, but it was still fun. What a crazy time. I would say that they are not traumatized on this cover. I'd say we're now 2 for 3 traumatized on the cover because it looks like they're mostly just like excited. They're like, a mummy. Cute. Tune in tomorrow morning. We'll be talking about pirates past noon. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow morning. Let's talk about pirates past noon. Welcome back to my series where every morning I recap another Magic Treehouse book, but from the perspective of an adult. This book picks up the day after the two kids went over into ancient Egypt, and it's raining outside, and apparently they have zero parental supervision. And so they were like, you know what? Let's just go outside, see what's happening over at the treehouse. Annie's like, I think the magic person is there. And Jack is like, well, I have all their shit, so I guess we need to return it. They head over to the treehouse. There it is. They head up. And then Annie sort of does this thing, which I can't tell if she's trying to like psychologically torture Jack. She's like, "Oh, remember the dinosaurs? Do you remember the knights? Remember when we went to Egypt?" And he's like, what the fuck is her problem? Jack is like, oh, I need to return all the stuff. So he like finds the M that's on the floor. He's like, here's your medallion and your bookmark. And in the meantime, Annie's just rooting through their shit, and she finds a tropical book. And of course, because it's a rainy day and they've been cooped up inside, they're both like, oh, God, I just wish I could be on the beach. The next thing you know, there's like a parrot, and it's like, surprise, we're going. We get to the beach, and Annie just like immediately jumps into the water, like socks and boots on, everything. And Jack is like, that's disgusting. I'm not doing that. He like takes off his boots and rolls up his socks and like his little jeans, and he's like, see, this is how you do it. They're playing in the water, whatever. And then they see a ship from afar, and it's like, oh man, shit's about to go down. And this, unfortunately, is where Jack makes a little bit of an incorrect turn, because they see that the flag has a skull and crossbones on it, which means pirates. And instead of like fleeing, Jack is like, let me sit and write in my little journal for a second about these pirates. It turns out they never actually looked at what the book was. They just saw a beach and decided to go. But it turns out that they are in the Caribbean. I know. I wish I was in the Caribbean too. It turns out that the book is called Pirates of the Caribbean. And I looked it up because I was like, okay, when was this book published? This book was published in 1999, which means that it was before the movie, but it wasn't before the Pirates of the Caribbean Disney ride, which was first in 1967, I believe, when I looked it up. So I don't know if there's a connection there, but I thought that was interesting. Annie's like, we have to go. She's like, we need to get your shit. We're leaving. And Jack is like, wait, I need to take a look at, I need to write in my little journal. And she's like, fuck this shit, I'm out. Basically, she leaves him there, and she's like, come on, run to the treehouse. Jack then starts to run away too, realizes halfway through that he has once again forgotten the book. You'd think he would have, picked up on that lesson from Dino times, but here we are. So the pirates then get him, obviously, and Jack's like, save yourself, to Annie, and she's like, no, I'm gonna try and beat up a pirate whose name is Captain Bones, and she's 7. Captain Bones is like calling his other pirate friends dogs, and Annie has this like really cunty little line where she's like, dogs are way better than you. Dogs are way better than pirates. Yes, you are. Anything you want to say? Okay, great. The pirates start looking for treasure, and this is where Captain Bones basically talks about how books are terrible and the only thing that matters is gold, but they do find the gold medallion, and Jack's like, that's not yours. And I'm like, well, Jack, it isn't yours either, but you took it. And then this is where there's quite a turn of events, because it turns out they're looking for a treasure, and Captain Bones can't read. No wonder he doesn't like books. So then Annie's like, well, Jack and I can read. She then makes a whole statement where she's like, we'll read the map for you if you let us go. And the captain's like, no. You'll read the map and then I'll take you to my ship because you're a child and I am an adult pirate. Turns out then the treasure is back on the island, so they go back over to the island because the island is like shaped like a whale, and apparently the treasure is underneath the whale's eye, which is actually a boulder. At this point, the bird that was following them starts coming back, and it's like, go back, and the pirates get superstitious, and so they run away because they think that the bird is talking to them. But in reality, the bird is talking to the kids, because like, I'm sure it's like, how did shit hit the fan so quickly? We were just playing on the beach one second, the next you're captured by pirates. Like, what are we doing here? You do see a little moment where like Jack is like, wait, but I kind of want to see the treasure. But the issue is there's a storm coming in, and Annie's like, leave the treasure. We have to get back to the magic treehouse. And Jack's like, but we could take the treasure with us. But then has to make the like ultimate decision that he's not going to look at the treasure, even though he does think about it for the rest of the book. They get back home, and this is probably why this is the last book in this first box set, because it turns out Polly the parrot isn't Polly the parrot. Polly is actually Morgan Le Fay. What? I'm shocked. She then has this like weird monologue where she's like, I might be a witch, I might be an enchantress, but really I'm a librarian. And I'm like, Okay, girl, get your bag, I guess. She's this like all seeing, like all powerful enchantress librarian. And instead of like making herself a cozy little house or something to travel through time to collect books, she makes a tree house. Tree house? What the fuck? She then tells them that the only reason that they can travel through the books the way that she can is because Annie believes in magic and Jack followed her. Jack is like, damn, like I can tell Jack feels the sting of that, you know? He's like, "Oh, dang it." But Jack also can travel because he likes books. So Annie likes magic and Jack likes books, and therefore the two of them are able to travel via Magic Treehouse. She's then like, "All right, guys, well, it's been really fun, but I have to go. Anyway, thanks for like, I don't know, rooting around in my treehouse, but I got to get back to Camelot. So okay, bye." She leaves a medallion behind, you know, and they're like, oh my God, she's gonna come back. And once again, Jack is still thinking of that treasure, which, you know what, as he should. He deserves treasures and riches after all the shit he has had to go through in the past 3 days. 3 days! So that's Pirates Past Noon. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you had a fun time, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.